Chapter 2 of Her Love from Above. Please subscribe to this channel if you want to continue receiving the readings of this book, chapter by chapter. Chapter 2. The Woman in the Ladies' Room. Buck peered over the corral fence as Charlie's Jeep rolled to a stop in front of the Haven's Rest Lodge. His dusty cowboy hat, red flannel shirt, ripped jeans, and leather riding chaps were the perfect portrait of a horse wrangler. His sandy brown hair was unkempt and just long enough to look a bit shabby, as he'd canceled an appointment to have it trimmed and intentionally left it looking distressed to fit the role he was now playing. When Charlie's other relatives arrived earlier that day, the first words from their mouths were questions concerning the mountain property and when Bobby Joe's last will and testament would be read. Nothing was said about her passing, nor did there seem to be any remorse for her death. And even though the invitation to the reading of the will requested they pack for a week-long stay at the lodge, they had no intention of observing that request. Instead, Paige and her daughter Madison rudely informed Buck that vacations were spent in Vegas, not in lodges in the middle of nowhere. When Buck explained that Aunt Bobby Joe wanted them to enjoy Haven's Rest as a family one final time, they laughed. But their mocking laughter turned to anger when they discovered that the will would be read at the end of the week. Then, according to Aunt Bobby Joe's instructions, he regretfully encouraged them to stay, hinting that anyone who did not abide by Auntie's wishes would forfeit their part of the inheritance. They were not happy, but they remained at the lodge. Immediately afterward, they began treating Buck like a hired hand who should carry luggage, supply them with food and drinks, awaken them at specific times, and attend to their every need. He wasn't looking forward to the next few days, at least not the time he was required to spend with Charlie's snobbish cousin and her arrogant daughter. Charlie's company would be the only redeeming part of the week. Buck loosened Cheyenne's harness and handed her a mouthful of grain. She was one of the most beautiful creatures he had ever seen. Her mane and tail were a deep bluish black, directly contrasting with her nearly white coat. The same bluish black color formed a ring around one eye and connected to a half moon on her forehead. Buck noted that Cheyenne, Auntie's mare for nearly 20 years, seemed mournful, too. She appeared to understand that her friend was gone forever. "I know how you feel," Buck gently whispered as he rubbed Cheyenne's underbelly. "I miss her too." A knot surfaced in his gut when he led her toward the stall. "It's only a week," he muttered to himself. "I can do this. I can wrestle a bear for 1 week." He poured a small amount of grain into Cheyenne's food trough, closed the stall door, and hung the harness on a nearby hook. "Okay," Buck said to himself. "Put your big boy pants on." He inhaled deeply, brushed the hay off his hands, and turned to exit the barn. Just as he closed the oversized wooden doors, he heard a man's voice call in greeting, "Buck!" Buck turned to see Charlie and Clair nearing. His sorrow temporarily vanished at the sight of his old friend. "Charlie," he welcomed, grinning and reaching for Charlie's hand. "How are you doing?" "I've been better," Charlie admitted, grasping Buck's hand and embracing him. "How are you getting on?" Charlie asked in return. He knew how much his friend loved Auntie. She was the only grandmother he had ever known, even if it wasn't a blood relationship. Had it not been for his auntie's ministry, Buck and his mother's lives would have been forfeited many years earlier, well before Charlie's birth. From as far back as he could remember, Buck was the older boy waiting to welcome him every time he visited Haven's Rest. As a result, the two had become good friends. In many ways, they were closer than brothers. "I won't lie," Buck admitted. "It's been hard. She was the only grandmother I've ever known. With Mom gone and now Auntie, well," Buck was unable to finish his sentence. "I'm sure," Charlie consoled. He pulled his friend into another embrace as he fought back his own tears. "I'm here. You've always been and will be a part of my family." Buck squeezed Charlie even tighter as the tears began flowing. Many years earlier, after Auntie received some life insurance money due to her husband's untimely death, she started the Haven's Rest ministry, a ministry designed to help those with no means of escaping abusive situations. Auntie purchased the mountain property, hoping its obscure location would help maintain its secrecy, then moved into its only building, an old miner's cabin. She had no running water or electricity, and no means of obtaining any at that time. Several of her family members thought she was foolish. Still, after suffering so horribly and nearly dying because of their ignorance, she was beyond caring what they thought. Besides, they had not lived her life, and there was no way they could understand her heart. She believed God called her to begin a ministry for battered women, and purchasing this mountain property was the first step in obedience. Shortly after the Haven's Rest Lodge was finished, Bobby Joe decided to treat herself to a birthday dinner at a local restaurant. Before heading home that evening, she noticed that her fuel tank, which should have been nearly full, was almost empty. She was forced to stop at a local convenience store to purchase gas. When she made a quick detour to the ladies' room, she heard a mother's quiet sobs mixed with the whispered prayer, "God, I have no way out. I have no hope. I have no way to save myself or my child. He's going to kill us. He's going to kill us both. Please save my baby. I don't matter, but if you're real, please save my baby. You're his only hope. Please, I don't." Bobby Joe hurried inside the tiny room to find a woman sitting on the floor hugging her small child. That woman was Buck's mom, Mia. Bobby Joe couldn't see his mother's face, but her neck and arm bruises spoke volumes. She rushed to Mia's side. "Let me help you," she offered in a pleading manner. "I can help you." When Mia turned to see who was speaking, Bobby Joe saw a face so swollen that it didn't look human. She dropped to Mia's side and carefully wrapped her arms around her. Several minutes passed before Bobby Joe finally whispered, "I know the owner of this store. I can sneak you out the back without anyone being the wiser. You can stay with me for as long as you need." "You don't know my husband," Mia whispered between sobs. "He will find me no matter where I go, and he will kill you if you help me." Bobby Joe gently took Mia's face and turned it toward her. "I was married once," she said. "He was a monster. I looked like you many times during my marriage. My family didn't know what was happening because they never saw my bruises. He made sure of it. When I finally got the nerve to tell them, he said I was lying and exaggerating. He was a good liar and master manipulator. They believed him, not me. The good Lord helped me escape my situation, and he and I can help you escape yours." Mia shook her head. "You don't understand," she said. "I can't." She tried to hand Buck to Bobby Joe. "Take him, please, take him. He will kill me and kill you." If he doesn't want our son. If only our son disappears, he won't go looking for him. He doesn't believe he's Buck's father. The best way you can help me is to take my baby away from this nightmare." "No," Bobby Joe flatly stated. "I will not take him without you. You must come. Otherwise, your husband will kill you and eventually your son." Bobby Joe pulled on Mia's arm. "Come with me, for your son's sake. You've got to try." Mia examined Bobby Joe's face more carefully. There was a determination in her eyes that pulled at Mia's heartstrings. No one had ever cared about her situation. Even her own family's opinion was, "You made your bed, so sleep in it." Yet here, in a stranger, she saw the slight potential for salvation. "Please," Bobby Joe once more begged, "but we've got to go now. He will come looking for you soon." Mia didn't speak, but nodded. "Give me a second to let Tom know what I'm doing," Bobby Joe instructed. "He can distract your husband long enough for us to sneak out the back door." Tears streamed down Mia's face as she again nodded. A few minutes later, she and Buck were in the back of Bobby Joe's Jeep, leaving the nightmare of his birth father behind. Buck sniffed away tears as he hugged Charlie, remembering the scene. "Only someone who's been there can understand," he whispered. "We had nowhere to go, no one to help us. If it had not been for Auntie—" "I know," Charlie comforted. He loosened his grip on Buck and stepped backward. "She's changed a lot of lives. I know what she meant to you, and I'm sorry I couldn't be here last week. That fire was bad. Half the mountain burned up. It was an all-hands-on-deck alarm, and we barely got everyone out in time." Buck shook his head in understanding. "I know. She would have been angry if you'd come in those circumstances. She's in heaven, and those people needed your help. Don't you give it a second thought. You're here now." Charlie nodded once. If it had not been an emergency in which people's lives were in danger, he would never have missed Auntie's going away. Auntie was one of the most important people in his life, and her influence on him was more than she could ever have imagined. "Thanks for YouTubing her celebration of life," Claire inserted. "It was beautiful. We've watched it several times. Is there any way we can get a copy of it?" "I've already made one for you," Buck said. "It's in your room." Charlie's voice trembled as he added, "Buck, please don't think bad of me for mentioning this so quickly, but, well, I see my cousin's vehicle is already here." "Yep," Buck responded. "First time she's darkened the door of Haven's Rest for years." "I figured that was the case." Buck grinned despite his broken heart. "I've already put it away for you, Charlie. You deserve that painting. After all, it's a painting of you." Claire looked at Buck. "How'd you know what he was going to ask?" "That's the only thing that would matter to him," Buck answered. "He loves horses, and that painting of Auntie teaching him to ride as a child is a priceless piece of history for only one person." Charlie took a deep breath and lowered his eyes to the ground. "It is special," he said. "Paige probably already has a buyer. Auntie told me several years back that you were to get that painting and the original photo. It's worth a pretty penny now. She figured that there would be some sticky fingers when she passed, so she instructed me to put it in her safe the day she stepped through heaven's gates. She wanted to make sure you got it." "Maybe I'm not being fair to Paige," Charlie said, rebuking himself. He was beginning to feel guilty for assuming the worst of his cousin. "I haven't seen her in years. Maybe she's changed." "She hasn't," Buck informed. "As soon as she entered the house, she headed straight for the wall where it hangs. I'd already changed out the real painting for the duplicate Auntie commissioned several years back." A few minutes later, Paige and Madison were raging about the painting being gone, demanding to know who had it. I thought they were going to blame Jenny or me at first, but when they saw the fire in Jenny's eyes, they thought better of it. Charlie burst out laughing. "I bet," he said, pulling Claire close. "Wait a minute," Claire interrupted. "I'm missing something here. You placed the fake one in its place before they arrived, so now the fake painting is missing?" Charlie laughed again before explaining. "Paige stole it, but she had to make it appear as though someone else was the culprit. Therefore, she's throwing a temper tantrum about it being missing to make it sound like Jenny or Buck or someone else around here is the real thief. I'm sure it's currently resting safe and sound in the trunk of her car." Charlie's voice sounded frustrated as he said, "And you're right. That means she hasn't changed. She's blaming others for her actions." He turned toward the house, but Buck grabbed his arm to halt his progress. "Can I have just a second before we go in?" "Sure." Charlie frowned. "What's up?" Buck hesitated. "I need to ask a favor of you." "Anything," Buck replied. "Whatever you need." "It's a bit deceptive, but per Auntie's wishes." Charlie tilted his head for Buck to continue. "Don't tell Paige or Madison that I'm an attorney," Buck said. "They need to think that my purpose for being here is to tend to her horses and grounds, nothing more." "Okay," Charlie said. "Is there a reason for this charade?" "Yes, but I'm not allowed to explain it yet." Claire's smile was conniving. "What is Auntie cooked up now?" Buck seemed amused, but didn't answer her question. "She's kept my degree hidden from your relatives for years. All they know is that I'm her hired hand who once lived here, and there's a reason for that." Charlie's brows perked. "You're far more than just her hired hand, and they should know that. You're her grandson." Buck grinned. "Thanks for that, Charlie. She was the only family we had. But even if we weren't blood related." "Family's a lot more than just blood," Charlie continued. He glanced toward the lodge in regret. "Some of my blood relatives are in there, and I'd love to pretend I don't know them." "As far as not telling them you're her attorney," Claire offered, "our lips are sealed. Whatever Auntie wanted, Auntie gets." "I appreciate that," Buck said, steering them toward the entrance of Haven's Rest. "Auntie didn't call anyone but you and Paige for the reading of the will. You are the only two still alive who gave her the time of day, even if it's been years for Paige. She's done a good disappearing act for at least a decade, but she used to visit more frequently. I think she hoped Paige had changed, but it looks like she's the same person she's always been. Anyway, they arrived this morning, well before the expected time." "She wanted that painting," Claire commented. "She knew it was Charlie's, but you can't have what you can't find." "Yep," Buck agreed, "and they are certainly anxious about the reading of the will. Your cousin already has a realtor coming to value the property." "What?" Charlie exclaimed as he suddenly kicked a rock from their path. "She couldn't even wait until the will was read?" "According to her daughter's husband, she wants it listed immediately." Charlie shook his head in disgust. "We're not selling this property, but Paige has never missed an opportunity to grab wealth. I seriously wonder if her greed isn't what drove her husband to an early grave." "Either that or she poisoned him," Buck suggested while knocking his boots against the wooden steps to free the excess dirt. "I wouldn't put that past her either, and your niece is right in there with her." "If she's that charming," Claire teased, "maybe her husband poisoned himself to get away from her." Charlie choked out a laugh. "You think that's a joke," he kidded, "but it's not. If you knew my cousin, you'd know that's a real possibility. Selfish is her middle name. Niece? Claire suddenly questioned. I didn't know you had a niece on this side of your family. Charlie placed his hand on Claire's lower back as they neared the lodge door. Madison isn't a real niece, he clarified. She's Paige's daughter, but Paige is technically my second cousin. It's just easier to say cousin than second cousin. I'm not sure what Madison would be to me, but I haven't seen her since she was a child. What's her husband's name? Charlie asked. Johnny, Buck answered. He seems like a nice guy. He shook his head in wonder. Can't figure out for the life of me what he's doing with that girl. All I remember about Madison is her monotone, irritatingly loud voice, Charlie commented. He laughed as he explained to Claire. Her whispers used to be louder than I talk. Well, Charlie, Buck grimaced, I'm sorry to say this, but some things never change. She has no volume control, and her voice has no inflection. I guess monotone would be the perfect description. Mercy, Charlie hissed. This may prove to be one long week. That's what I'm thinking, Buck admitted.